Sally sells. She sells by the seashore. Hello, internet watchers. How you going? I'm Alex Norrish. I'm joined today by...
You're joined always by...
Always by you. Okay, always by Dominic Mulligan, CEO of Mulligan Media, and our good friend Tim Van Gameren. How you going, guys?
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And welcome to you to Nevermind, the Nevermind Podcast.
The official podcast.
The official podcast. Okay, we're getting classy.
Talking.
Okay, the official podcast made by internet users for internet users. You don't like that? No.
Well,
okay.
it's
I was going with it. I went there, and then
I'm not sure how it works as a tagline.
I tried. I put it out there. I had an idea, and I just ran with it. Talking about ideas, that was our topic we arranged for today. We have the program here, the idea to voice our ideas and our concerns.
That was a wonderful segue.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I worked long and hard on that. I thought I'll go with the byline.
Yes.
It'll be my idea.
Very
Everyone
good.
will be impressed.
Very nicely done.
We've just destroyed the illusion.
I don't think that anyone was fooled.
I would have been. Okay, so who wants to take us off? Talk to me about where you get your inspiration for ideas and what happens when those ideas just aren't right. You know, sometimes do you go to dark places?
Tim?
Dark place. Okay.
No. Okay. Just talk generally about your ideas, your inspiration for ideas. Where's your creative muse?
Well, Tim, you're a writer.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So I mean, because I
Right.
make... Well, I make things, but most of what I make is just complete and utter trash.
Well,
not completely.
You know.
Like I've been a long member of Mulligan Media, for years now.
Yeah, and what's your flagship show? It's me pointing a camera at you for 3 minutes at a
That's
time.
not appropriate. I don't like it. We said you weren't going to bring that up, and you brought it up.
Okay.
Well done.
We didn't say that.
We
at
did.
all.
Shh.
I don't
It's
remember.
called trickery. So yes, so Dom makes things, Tim writes things, and I do a lot of design type work as well. So we've got quite a different brands.
We're a good creative bunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is nice.
It's interesting. So where do you get your inspirations to write, Tim? What grabs you?
Well, there's always the taking references from other works.
Oh, plagiarism. That's my favorite.
Well done. Well done.
Like this podcast, which is pretty much like every other podcast that has ever existed.
Yeah, only better.
This is just three guys talking about things.
Yeah, but it's better.
That always happens.
Well, the original idea is not always the best idea.
So yes, back to you, Tim. So other than plagiarising,
we've got a dog. Okay. This is... Yes, Tim, after the plagiarising. Well, oh no, come here.
I believe that the original idea might not always be the best one. Shakespeare often took work from the Greek plays,
Come here. Go down.
even to the extent of plagiarising them.
okay, yes. Okay, did you hear that, Dom? I wasn't. I was distracted by the dog.
Well, great.
No, Shakespeare, said that he would take ideas.
I got Shakespeare, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's important to build a body of work to take inspiration from, whether it be, writing or filmmaking.
Well, that's important.
You got to find your own style, of course.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think
Things you like, things you don't like, you know.
yeah.
Well, they say, I suppose, that everything that you create is a product of the society that it was created in.
Of course, yeah.
But also, it's also a manifestation of your own beliefs and how you view the world as well. As much as a comment on the society, it's also a comment on you
So
as
it's
well,
an interpersonal
as the author or the creator of various things. And so, Dom, where do you get inspirations for these, trashy shows, as you put it?
To be honest, be deathly honest, reality television is a huge inspiration to a lot of the stuff that I make.
Examples?
Which is... okay, so... what is a good example?
Next season, we're going Big Brother on this thing.
yeah. Next season, this will just be 24/7 live stream.
Yep.
Take, say...
That would be riveting, wouldn't it? Yeah, go on. Please go.
Fun to edit.
To jump back to 3 Minutes with Norrish, that is pretty much a reality television show about your life in 3-minute chunks.
It was a novel idea. I'm not going to lie.
It's still happening.
It's happening as we speak. Yes, it was. Okay, so that wasn't your first project, though?
No, well, gosh, what's the first project that's still online?
Exactly,
Is
that's the thing.
probably the 2-episode series with Morgan in it.
Oh, yes.
Which is, what was that one called?
What,
the
undeniable truth.
truth was a pun on his last name. Which is very much a little bit like segments out of a news magazine program almost.
Yeah. Well, it's an opinion piece, wasn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's
a visual opinion piece.
So you're reflecting, or at least you started off initially, reflecting the society that you were in.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and it branched out.
There. That's the content I like watching. So, the content I like making. When we talk about, it's not all reality TV show in the way that 3 Minutes with Norrish is an awful look into your life.
It's not an awful look. Some would say,
I'm not saying it's
daring.
A look. I'm not saying it's a look into your awful life. I'm saying it's an awful look into your life. But say Review This, which was, how many episodes do we end up making?
8, 7,
Yeah,
8?
I think 7 or 8.
Something like that. And to be fair, it was terrible.
Well,
I don't
I've
think
been
you can blame that on us.
a lot worse.
No, but
some of the guest stars she got on was
they were enjoyable.
It was an attempt. It was a cute attempt.
So were we doing it more for ourselves or for the viewers?
Is
creative art selfish?
I think. Well, that's the question, I suppose.
Yes, that was a good thought up by me.
I always when I'm making things, I like to think that I'm making. I make things for people to watch. Whether they do or not is
out of your control.
Out of my control.
Yeah.
Not really. The better that the stuff I make is, the more likely people are to watch it. But then again, I make the things that I want to see and the things that I want to make. So,
very much so.
You have to make the distinction between if you think you're making it for entertainment purposes or artistic purposes.
Yes, there is a fine line, isn't there?
Because if you're doing entertainment, say Michael Bay films, I think you have to make it for the viewer.
Yes.
Do you think that people get? Do you think that people are one or the other? Do you think people?
I think they have
artistic,
to
or when in terms of creativity, are you making things as entertainment and spectacle and whatnot, or are you making things for art's sake rather?
But isn't art's sake also entertainment?
Yeah.
Well, is it? That's
but is
the
it
question.
all entertainment art? That's the question.
No, but I know where you're going. my question is though. There seems to be a very distinct difference between things that are arty, I suppose, and things that are entertainment.
Yeah,
you mentioned Michael Bay films and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Bay.
Not a fan?
Nah. Well, what he's done is that he's created this stylized CGI violence that's completely detached from violence and reality. It's quite interesting that all the violence in his films usually is bloodless, but there is not gore at all. So it's like I suppose that feeds into this escapist sort of entertainment that he's trying to create.
And it's like a summer blockbuster. You can't get too deep into.
It's almost like that this violence is without consequences.
I don't think the Marvel films ever had too much blood.
No,
granted, no, you're the same sort of thing, but
there's a kind
I'd say that Michael Bay is the one that sort of pioneered that sort of mode of violence on cinema. That's my view.
Yeah, well, no, that's true. Because there's a lot of cinema that is art rather than entertainment.
Indeed. But they're often looked down by the general populace as well.
Well, I'm certainly not a fan. To be honest.
See, I don't mind art house film every now and then.
It really depends. It
does depend.
There's a limit in the spectrum of artistic.
Well, this is
you don't want to go too far deep into the.
Well, I wonder about you, Tim, because to me you seem like someone who'd be very much for art above entertainment.
Not necessarily.
No, have I just got the wrong impression of you?
You don't know Tim like you think you know Tim.
I think I might like art films more than entertainment, but it's not that I look down upon entertainment films. I like Marvel films. Very excited for Guardians of the Galaxy. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes wouldn't really be considered high art, but I really like that.
Although, does innovation equal art form?
So
in what respect?
Well, take Andy Serkis, and his portrayal of the motion capture technology from even in Gollum.
Yeah,
is the fact that you've got that innovation in cinema, does that make it an artistic piece?
Pioneering a part of
sort
film
of thing.
history.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, or reshaping how we do things.
And how we think of like film.
It's like Nolan used the IMAX cameras in quite a lot of his shots there. And is that art or is that pioneering? Or are they one and the same?
Maybe they are.
I don't know.
I mean,
it's an interesting question.
It doesn't necessarily have to be artistic in story or artistic in
Oh yeah. There can be artistic elements that are outside the plot
in
structure.
acting, but if you have artistic cinematography, maybe it could be considered quite artistic.
Well, I mean,
in
we
some
had
sense.
We had that question before, I suppose, of what's your end goal, to make art or to entertain people, and whether do you make it for other people or yourself. I'm interested to hear your views on that.
If I was making...
We spoke about me, but...
Like, if I make stuff...
When you're writing, are you writing for yourself or are you writing for a potential audience?
I think, at least when writing, you have to write for yourself. I think if you start thinking about what people would like, it doesn't really become like, something that's... Writing is really like more personal than filmmaking, or... Because it's a one-person thing.
You're by yourself,
Like, design's often personal as well, but there's often... Writing is one of the few things that kind of has to be done by yourself, at least in the creative stage. Then marketing, of course.
Yeah, that's a whole nother ballgame.
And editing, I guess you could consider as well. But I think that as a writer, I think you have to think artistically and for yourself. Whereas the editor kind of has to think more of like what people will like.
Yeah. Okay. Do you find writing is more of a release for you?
Yeah.
Like a creative release.
I think it's a good exercise. Way to like get out your thoughts, ideas,
frustrations, all sorts of things.
Well, yes, emotions, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah. Okay,
So that's a different approach to what I take.
Yes, see.
So you do it for entertainment for the viewer.
I do it.
I think that's fair for for filmmaking. Because you're in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
Also in the artistic, but. I think that's a good way to think in terms of filmmaking. And
well, ultimately, like with my design work, I'm given a client who gives me a brief, and then I have to work to that brief. And so then
you have to kind of...
I have to sort of go with the flow in that respect.
Do you want to give your own style to everything that you do?
That's what I try. I try to have a distinctive style, but then that's sometimes completely different from what the author had in their head originally. And sometimes I want to go in one direction, and I have to stop myself and say, no, it's not your book, it's their book, or it's their thing that you're trying to sell. And so there's that sort of distance.
There's a lot of famous artists who have been commissioned to do work, but you can still tell it's a Michelangelo, it's a Raphael and stuff.
Yes. But I think that's the same with you. You've got your distinctive style there.
Well, yeah. Whether you're... Do you take much ownership over when you're doing client work as opposed to things that you're doing for yourself?
Well, see,
in terms of like emotional ownership.
Well, I find that client work is ultimately more gratifying because you're getting that feedback, and you get that notion that what you're doing is actually towards something. When you're by yourself, it can be the tendency of just, I'm the only one that's going to view this. So
there's no point to it.
Yeah, there's no point to it. But where you've got a client, they'll push you be better.
They give you a goal.
Yeah, they give you a goal, something to work towards. So that may mean that I know you guys are saying that it's quite an independent process, that you've got this goal. When the goal's given to you, it's a completely different ballgame.
So you like more ideas. You get more ideas when you have a goal.
Like I'll read a chapter or two if I'm designing a book cover initially to get this idea of sort of the tone that they've got, and then I'll try and infuse that in the cover that I'm designing, or in that sort of thing.
Well, that's a pretty good approach to take.
Well, you're trying to reflect their creation. Yeah. As much as you're trying to create your own, you're trying to reflect something else.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, exactly. But I think all artists do that anyway. They're all reflecting something, or they're working to someone else's standard. Because it's ultimately going to be judged by someone else's standard.
Whether it's a client or an audience.
Yeah, exactly,
or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. But then the question comes, how much leeway, especially for me, how much leeway do I give myself when working in these sort of situations? It would be nice for them to go, just give me a book cover. This is the thing.
What you want,
and just do whatever you want. But so I find it challenging, but ultimately rewarding as well. But the same sort of thing would be said for the acting craft as well. You're working to a director's design or a script, a writer's script, and you've got to work with material that you're given in order to create something. And oftentimes the actors are given the kudos because they've elevated the script or something like that. So chime in here, guys.
That's something I find really that's something I find really interesting in film is because it is perhaps one of the most collaborative.
Yes,
of all
it is quite
art
collaborative.
films.
Yes.
Where does the sort of authorship of that lie, and where does the creativity of all of that lie? Because a lot of the time you give pretty much all of the attribution to the film itself to the director.
Yes, that was the classic
of the
view of ownership. The auteur
theory and so on. And then you get actors praised for their performances. No one ever really thinks of the writer.
No, they're
quite
sort of like the
I mean, they do have the best.
How do you feel about that, Tim?
Unless the writer is also the director, they're not.
But then, do they claim even more ownership by the fact that they've?
Oh, much more.
Yeah, that they've directed it and they've written it as well.
But yeah, you're right. The screenplay writer or the writer doesn't get much notice unless it's based off a famous book or
that's true.
But then you also get instances of I know when they were doing Harry Potter that J.K. Rowling was on set advising all throughout that, but then the director wouldn't have ownerships then. You'd think that the director's ownership would be filtered through the direction that the author of the book said originally. Like J.K. I remember there was a scene that the director wanted to put in, and she goes, "No, that's going to affect something later on in the books that I'm writing."
Oh,
so you can't have that in there. Yes. So how much does the director own it? I'd say not as much.
Well, not
like that. Well, didn't you think that maybe Prisoner of Azkaban had like a very
it had a very distinctive style that was different from the first two. Very
do you
much
think
so.
that was just the book also got?
Well, the book was also quite a shift
so
anyway.
It might have just been. So yeah, it might make a very.
Interesting, because the tone was quite light and quite optimistic, if you will, in the first two films. And then in the third one, and progressively, they did get darker and darker and darker. But it was
Alfonso Cuarón.
Yes, who did number 3, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. So would he be credited for setting the bar that other directors would have to meet for going that sort of dark style? Because he had the bar originally from the first director, and he had to change it, and he did, and then he set the bar again. It's the whole idea of challenging again. Who are you?
Well, I mean, in that instance, that must be hard having to I suppose at least meet, but ultimately top the person who came before you.
Yes.
Yep. In that sort of instance.
Well, it would be an obligation as well, because you've also got to have a link to the previous while still trying to be different as well, because you don't want the same thing over and over and over again.
No.
And while we're talking about authorship, let's talk about television, because that's a very different environment to film. In that, in TV, you have a different director every episode.
Pretty much, yep.
You've got to maintain a consistent tone. I mean, directors don't get as much kudos in television as they do in film, because ultimately...
But you notice that the showrunners or the writers get much more.
Yep.
They're the ones who hold the film and who create, or who hold the show and create that world, which is interesting.
You also get quite a lot that you get a well-known director to come in and do like the first couple of episodes to set the tone, and then everyone's going to follow that. I know David Fincher did House of Cards, the first couple of episodes, House of Cards, and Martin Scorsese did the first couple of episodes, Boardwalk Empire, So they come in, they set the tone.
Was Scorsese the showrunner of Boardwalk?
I think a producer. I think he's just producer credit. That's quite common nowadays for them to come in and set the tone.
Frank Darabont did Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that sort of thing. It's quite common nowadays.
Well, that's in television, I suppose they have a Bible, they have a book.
Yes.
That outlines everything about the show. That's sort of where everything comes from.
Exactly. But then, how much authorship can they claim when you've already got the tone given to you, and you've got the Bible given to you as well? You're just playing in the world already created.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I haven't directed television. In that world, are you Is it more of a technical role than a creative role?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's verging on that.
Well, do you think that television is more geared towards that entertainment kind of perspective, and therefore doesn't need as much artistic?
Or does it come from the roots of television?
Because television's always been seen as that sort of
entertainment,
lower form of art.
It's always been considered lower than film and stuff. Yeah,
but I think
right now it's coming out to be a bit more.
So now that television's more like, because, and I mean, until relatively recently, television was very much television and its own thing. It wasn't related to film that much.
No.
You
could tell that it's television.
Yeah.
As well, just the look of it, you could go, that's a television show.
And the roots of TV is in live programming and in studio-based stuff. So where a director doesn't so much do, the major role of a director in live TV is selecting and directing cameras.
Yes.
And to capture whatever a presenter's doing. And you've got writers and producers doing most of that sort of creative work. So is that is that something that needs to change? Do we need to have television programs that are directed solely by one person? I mean,
I think the aim of television is at least with drama television, so like story driven, is to focus on the story and not so much the style.
That's true.
Like if you've got a mini series, you want to get that story out. Of course, there has to be style in it. There has to be like some kind of appeal. But would you really want to put your own stamp on one episode, one like eighth of an episode of a story, and let it kind of deride other?
Because then it loses its cohesion.
That's true.
Then as well, if you've just got this really wacky episode and it doesn't match anything else that you've got there as well.
It would be like a director shooting a different, like a scene in like a film that's not theirs. Just shooting like one or two scenes that completely like feel out of place in the film.
Yeah.
You've got to be... Yeah, I think you'd have to be careful.
But you'd think that the showrunner of the show would have a much bigger impact on the shape of a show than a director would.
Well, they tend to. I mean, it's actually a relatively new title, showrunner, as far as I'm aware, which is
probably
interesting.
when television started getting more artistic.
Yeah. But then also, you have the tendency in television sometimes to get lost in the formula. If it's a cop show, then you've got this, and this, and it's a cop show.
Well, we spoke before about topping the last director in terms of film series.
Yes.
I mean, in television, you now have this topping the last storyline.
Yeah,
what was
concept,
what was the last story arc we had, and how can we make that better? And I mean, every television show that doesn't have that sort of wrap up, because I mean, and this is something the British do really well, is they will run a show for 2 seasons until it's finished. Whereas...
And they'll just end it.
The Americans tend to go...
Drag it out.
On and on and on and on, and you end up getting into the realm of the ridiculous.
Yes,
true.
But I mean, you get these American shows who jump the shark and...
Yes, but is that also taking a creative risk and it failing?
That could be considered.
Is it?
As such.
Or is it just going too far? Is it... This show should have died a long time ago.
So are you saying that has television been proven to that it should last this long?
I don't think there's any set formula to say that it should only last 3 seasons or it should only last...
Maybe they're just considering like more entertainment, like more money. Maybe they...
I think it's some of that. But then you get good shows that get put into bad time slots and cancelled and so on.
Yes, that's indeed. True. So the network then has a creative decision or that impacts on the depiction of the show or the viewership of the show.
I mean, actually, I suppose on that point, at least for the network, it is about the money and the viewership rather than the art of it.
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
Because...
Well, if you notice, though, on cable, the viewership would be significantly less than network television.
But they know that.
But they know that they're going to get the less thing, and they allow. Often there's more money put in there, and they allow them to take those sort of risks to see if it pays off.
Game of Thrones would have never been accepted by
exactly.
CBS
It wouldn't have at all.
But HBO.
Well, they're the ones who have sort of been pioneering this whole shift in television.
Yep. Yes. HBO and Netflix. I think
and network television's really got to step it up. Really. If you notice in the latest Emmy nominations, there was not one network television show on the best drama lists.
Wow.
They were all cable.
Really? Not even Hannibal?
No, not at all. Which did shock a few people, Tim. Myself included. I was expecting... I was expecting it to get nominated because that's the one example that I can think of a television show which bucks that trend.
I think
it's really a cable show
it
on
feels like a
network
cable show,
television.
Yeah.
And that has a very distinctive style as well.
It does.
So I'd say that's more artistic than your other.
And the fact that it feels too like out of place on a network shows that they should really have to change.
Yeah, and it's also like quizzical for the audience as well, because you're like, this shouldn't be on NBC. What am I doing watching NBC? I'll turn it off. That sort of thing. But see, that's really struggled for ratings as well. The show, and you're just like, okay.
Well, people might not give it a chance if it's on a network television show now. Like if a new show is coming out on NBC,
you're like,
and it looks like hardcore and gory. Whatever. They're like, they're just going to tone it down. Yeah. So yeah,
exactly. But then also it's interesting because you were talking about earlier that you've got to top the last arc, or you've got to raise the bar even more. But you often find in sitcoms that at the end of the episode, it reverts back. They do have long term, but
No, I mean, they've got longevity as sitcom because of that.
Yes, because it keeps going back. Yes, reset button at the end of each episode. Like, how much creative art is there in that? The fact that you've created a formula and you keep sticking to that formula for however long the show lasts.
They can have story arcs.
Oh, without a doubt,
even like season-long story arcs. But
nothing ever seems to change too dramatically.
No.
Nothing ever seems to uproot the entire show.
And if it does, it's a big event. So it's like...
Yes, I agree. I'm just trying to think of an example along those lines.
Do we want to give spoilers or?
Well, no, not particularly.
Yeah. That's what
I think we should. I think we should verge away.
Let's say for like Fonzie jumping the sharks or something.
Well, that
didn't change anything. I'm just saying, but like a big event that like everyone's like, a character dies.
Yes,
is what I was kind of.
And sometimes it's out of their hands as well. Yeah. But then also advertising is really interesting. Like, I know the ads for the Big Bang Theory on network television here, they're really dramatic, and they have the, bombshell, what they're doing this week, and you're just like, that's not the show. It's just like...
I've seen, like, sometimes they edit it in such a way that it seems like, maybe they're having a conflict, but it's like a one-line joke.
Yeah.
And it's not even related to the... I remember The Simpsons used to do that a lot.
Yes.
At least when it was, like, Channel 10, like... prime time. I don't know if it still is.
No, it's on 11 now.
Oh, okay.
But I'm pretty sure it's that whole thing again of trying to top the last.
Yes.
The last whatever.
But topping it, does that mean by topping it you want to keep your audience base while also increasing your audience base?
Well, do people get bored? Do people get bored of the same thing week after week? Do you get bored of Law and Order?
Yes.
The same formulaic stuff over and over?
Well, it's the fact that there's so many variations and so many spin-offs on this one thing.
That's true, yeah.
It really takes something special to rise above the crowd that you've got there.
There's only so many murder cases.
There's only so many...
So many ways someone can get murdered.
Yes, without it becoming,
a bit like, gimmicky.
But then you've got shows like Criminal Minds, and you've got Hawaii Five-0, which tries to take a more, like, not comedic, but it's sort of more lighthearted. Then you've got Criminal Minds, which is a little bit darker. Then you've got, Law and Order, SVU, Law and Order, CSI Miami, CSI, the Netherlands. No, there's no CSI Netherlands, but yes.
I would watch CSI the Netherlands.
I'm thinking it would be good. So yes, it's how advertising affects how we watch and how we receive something. How we view it as good or bad, depending on what someone else says.
Well, that's a whole nother
issue. That's a whole other issue. It sort of flows nicely with what we're talking about. But yes, it is a whole other issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there original thought?
Yeah.
Or is it just variations on the same thing again and again?
Oh,
and again.
The kind of man with 1,000 faces idea, the hero with 1,000 faces, yeah. So, like, are we just copying? Like, no idea now original?
Well,
has everything under the sun been done?
You see them in Hollywood nowadays. You've got that many reboots or sequels to something.
Well, they do, don't they?
Yeah,
everything's a reboot.
Yes, and you're like, is it necessary?
Yeah.
Like, there's very few reboots that I think actually surpass the original film. They're always in the shadow of the original film.
That's fair enough to say.
I'm thinking, yes, it's always going to have that sort
Spider-Man?
I haven't seen the new Spider-Man. I probably don't plan to.
Well, The Amazing Spider-Man was pretty good, and then its sequel.
I think reboot would be a loose word, but I think the X-Men, like, origin, like the...
Well, that was interesting.
The kind of first-class one was
they took a completely different... well, they kept it within the framework of what they were doing, but they told a completely different story.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a spin-off, but within like a spin-off movie sort of thing is what.
Or what about, again, loose reboot, but like James Bond when...
Well, that's interesting because
like
the
Casino
constant change in
Royale.
actor is going to reinvigorate a franchise, or it's going to kill a franchise as well if you don't like them, if they're not received. But then once again, it's just variations on the same character. There's not that many differences between... You could argue this to high heavens, though. You could say that Roger Moore was so completely different to Sean Connery, was so completely different to Daniel Craig, but they are all variations on the one idea.
Yeah, but they have, again, with like ideas, don't they have their own like artistic theme to themselves?
See, that's... Can it be artistic if it's just a variation?
Well, if you've got
yes.
framework...
Yes.
Well, because it's a variation. I mean, the art comes from it being different to...
You've got a framework, but you
before.
build
I mean, take
upon that.
take the BBC Sherlock and take the other one that's on. What's that one?
Elementary. Yeah.
Elementary. And they are completely different endeavours in their own right. They all draw from the same source material.
Yeah, they do feel very different.
It's also the subject of a lawsuit as well. But it was there. They go, you stole our concept, Sherlock in the modern day.
I guess.
It didn't get very far, but that's neither here nor there.
So. I mean, the thing that bugs me about Elementary is it is basically just another Law and Order. But
see,
I don't mind it.
But you see, also, it's different because Sherlock is a miniseries.
Yeah.
Like, you've got your 3 episodes and that's it.
And that's it.
Whereas Elementary's got to stretch it out over a 22-episode season.
It's So do you think that ideas have to like adhere to cultural and like national like ways?
Not so much culture.
Well,
not so much cultural,
if
but
you
it's
made
almost like they're stretching it too thin.
What
Like
do you
there's a
think-
story here, and they're pushing it out.
well,
What do you think shows feel like a need in America to stretch it out to like a full season
I
of
don't
22
know.
episodes?
I personally
whereas
like
England,
the 10 to 12 episode season thing.
is
which I still do.
Sherlock more artful than Elementary?
Just because it's
Elementary is
shorter?
relatively Elementary is rather formulaic, and it is longer. It's more like your standard television program, whereas Sherlock is those 3 episodes of 90 minutes per season that are big films, basically.
Well, it's interesting because it's almost asking the question: mass media versus not mass media, because it's mass produced. Because you got your 22 episodes.
Yeah.
It's almost like overload of things. Is that more or less artistic than your short one? It's an interesting question.
Well, often when it's shorter, they have to put more effort into it. That comes with like people thinking it would be more artistic than you have to make these 22. There's going to be some filler. It's almost impossible to make a season that's just
without a
pure.
filler.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess there comes that idea that if it's shorter, it's put more work into it, therefore it's better.
Yes, and when you've got a longer
idea.
season, there's a tendency to just go, oh.
I can
Not
miss this
that,
episode.
not that they don't work hard. Of course they work hard, but it's
no.
like, oh, is this where the story's going?
But this
We're
is
doing
the
this
consensus
week.
that like
Yeah.
other than like the finale and maybe the opening, there's not too much work that goes into like the mid seasons where they're just
Yes, although they've now tried to do that with the scheduling, the mid-season finale.
yes, that's true. Yeah, they do
the
break them up,
mid-season
yeah.
break, and then it goes on hiatus for a bit, and then it comes back. Then it's Super Bowl weekend. All those sort of things.
Which
Yeah, I
is
can see
interesting.
your
Yeah, so they are trying to structure it in the way where you've almost got 2 seasons in one, because you've got the beginning leading up to the mid-season finale, and then post up to the season finale as well. That's the only way I see that they're trying to be like those shorter seasons, those more... Would you say that shorter seasons are always better in quality?
That is, I believe that's a consensus. Whether I think it's true, I think it's like people think that. I think that the majority of people think that, but whether it's true or not,
I'm not sure.
It's interesting.
You don't think that the general public thinks?
Do they do it based? Do they think that based upon the length of the season, or is it just that maybe good shows tend to be shorter?
That's interesting, because
Which came first?
Yeah.
Like the idea that a good
we've
show
been
should-
talking about how the production values, in particular on cable, are that much better, and they're more cinematic than ever before.
Do they tend to be shorter seasons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually it's about year 10, that sort of
that is
episodes.
true. Like Game
So
of
mate-
Thrones is only 10 episodes.
Yes, exactly.
Hannibal's only like 12.
Yeah, so you're like, in your head, you go, oh, look at this, high production values. It's only 10 episodes. It just so happens to be 10 episodes. And you go, oh, okay, then it's automatically good. Now, the only thing that I can think of at present, in current day, which has your 22 episode season, and it's still maintained its quality throughout the entire season, didn't have many filler episodes by my thing, is The Good Wife. I don't know if any of you watched The Good Wife.
I haven't watched The Good Wife, so I can't.
No.
Oh, well, it's interesting because it's gone on for 5 seasons now. It just wrapped up its 5th season. And arguably this 5th season is the best of its entire run. It started off with a completely game-changing opening.
Yep.
And then the ramifications. And then just when you thought it was getting you settling down again, they shook it up again.
That's a good way. Is that like a political drama sort of
Well,
thing,
it's a political law sort of drama.
Yeah.
It's more of the personal lives of the lawyers as opposed to your Law and Order. Yeah.
Just because it made me think of The West Wing, which was a fantastic show, but I believe had a relatively high episode count per season.
Yeah,
I think it was about 22. Yeah, it's about that.
The Newsroom, though, has less.
Yeah,
No,
they're done by the same guy as well.
Is that just a general direction that television's going in then?
Well, I think it is, but I think I'd argue that The West Wing was a better quality program than the Newsroom. I just thought that, they're different.
They are.
Granted.
Well, they're also a lot the same.
Yes, they're also a lot the same. You can notice that they're Sorkin things. But I'd go that The West Wing was better, even though it did have those tendency to have those filler episodes.
Yeah.
But do those filler episodes give you a chance to catch your breath
Possibly.
as an audience member, to sort of go, okay, I'm watching it, but it's not, high octane adrenaline rush every week.
I think so. I think that's good because the thing that I think that shows with longer seasons have more rewatch value.
Well, you're getting closer to syndication.
But
100 episodes your syndication deal, and you're going to have it again and again.
I think the good thing about a filler episode is that you can watch it again. Sometimes I feel like sitting down and watching a television show, but I don't feel like I want to watch a typical episode of that program. And when you get to these, really short condensed seasons where there's, big changes in every episode, there is no sort of typical
quintessential
sit back and watch it.
Well, that's because the storytelling's much more serialized. Each episode builds on the last and the last.
Am I just watching it wrong, or is that? I mean,
well, no, okay, but it's a tendency to binge watch the shorter seasons in particular. You watch it all in one hit, and you go, "Wow, that was good."
Well, we talk about Netflix and what they're doing
Netflix,
with their
exactly.
releases.
They just release them all.
And you watch it
at your pace.
Because I mean, it is internet programming, but it's television.
Yes,
yeah, of course.
We can count it under the same sort of banner, but that's the way people are watching TV nowadays. Isn't necessarily week to week. It's binge watching.
Yeah, as in one block. Yep, I think that's probably the way it's going to go.
But it's also more user demands as well.
Should we release 70 of these at once?
I'm thinking we store them up. Yep. They'll be a bit out of date though. You're talking. We talked about the Emmy nomination before.
Yeah.
It's like they're not
Game
topical.
of Thrones hasn't been on for 3 years.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yes, indeed. But it's all about, well, at least with that, it's user or audience directed content.
Well, yeah. Yes. That's an idea that they had, and it's worked out for them because a lot of people have given positive feedback on how.
Yes. No, I agree wholeheartedly.
That whole structure has really been quite good for them. It's gotten people interested in Netflix shows. They just watch 10 episodes at their own pace. House of Cards,
House of Cards is a typical example.
Is that us?
And so they don't have to wait every week for like this one episode, and if they miss it or they have an obligation, they have to like either record it or it can be a bit of a hassle. Not everyone has that, so I think it's a good.
We have covered a lot of stuff.
We have.
This was a good first side.
Yes,
it was a good show. Well done, team.
All right,
high five.
No.
I'm not high-fiving you. It's not good. So thank you for listening, Internet Watchers, and we'll be back in the short-term future. I've been Alex Norrish.
I've been Dominic Mulligan. Are we doing this?
Yeah, we're doing this now.
Tim Van Gameren.
Thank you very much. Good night or good morning? What is it? Just stop.
Be
Good night.
That's the beauty of podcasting is you can do it whenever.